Good afternoon. The Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 12:07. Our next case is Mr. Zmorrio Douglas. Mr. Douglas, would you give us your full name and DOC number, please?
Zmorrio Douglas, 369182.
Mr. Douglas, let me explain our process. First, I'm going to read some information into the record. Then the board is going to conduct a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we will allow those persons who've indicated they wish to have input to speak. Speaking on your behalf today is your wife, Susan Douglas, and speaking in opposition is Tori Mathern, who is one of the victims in this case. At the end, you'll be allowed to make a brief statement before the board votes. Do you understand our procedure?
Yes, sir.
This is the matter of Zmorrio Z. Douglas, DOC number 369182, date of birth April the 12th of 1979. Is classified as a third felony offender. He has a parole eligibility date of April the 11th of 2024, an adjusted good time date of September the 16th of 2026, and a full term date of July 1st of 2032. He is currently serving a 31-year, 10-month, and 5-day sentence on the charges of 3 counts of armed robbery, unauthorized entry of an inhabited dwelling, unauthorized use of a movable, and unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, having been revoked on those 3 last charges. Is that all sound pretty accurate to you, Mr. Douglas?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Douglas, your case has been assigned to me, so I will begin the interview process. Mr. Douglas, how old are you, sir?
44.
And Mr. Douglas, how long have you been in prison on these charges?
Almost 23 years.
Mr. Douglas, I'm a little confused by your prison record, so I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions, okay, about that. Then we'll talk a little more about the interview. You were in prison when you were 17 years old, or at least your first 3 crimes were when you were 17, 1996. Those were the charges of, I believe you pled guilty to unauthorized entry of an inhabited dwelling, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, and another unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. You were given supervised probation on 2, and then you were given 5 years on the other. Does that sound right?
Yes, sir.
How long did you actually stay in prison on those 3 charges?
3 years and 2 months.
Okay. During those 3 years and 2 months, how many write-ups did you have?
I have no idea.
Was it a lot? Because my records reflect that you have lost 598 days of good time. And it doesn't appear that you lost any or much of that good time while you've been in prison in the last 22 years. How much good time, how many disciplinary write-ups have you had in the last 22 years?
In 22 years.
Maybe these records are inaccurate.
Mr. Marabella, may I answer that question?
Yes, ma'am. If you could get a little closer to the microphone, we're having a little difficulty hearing you, but yes, I'd love you to answer that question.
Okay, his first incarceration, let's see, you asked that question, he had a total of 39 write-ups the first incarceration. That since he's been back this time, since 2000, excuse me, he's had a total of 78. What was sent to the parole board was a mistake. They only put 1 write-up on there, or have 1
Correct.
write-up conduct report. So actually his total is 78. And with the last one being June the 23rd of 22.
And what was that write-up for?
That was a 30C and a 3. That was while he was at a parish. No, actually, I'm sorry. That was while he was at DCI.
And the
Oh, it
30
wasn't
was what?
DCI?
Do you
So,
have any information on that, right? What specifically the facts?
yes, sir. It was at a parish. I think DCI wrote him up. Is that correct?
Well, I know the warden woke me up at the
Oh, it was at DeQuincy Police Department, okay. And it was, he arrived at the jail at the end of the workday. All offenders were searched and entered the cell block. Entered the shower first. Offender Douglas got very angry and, or, do you remember this? Ontario he had gotten into the shower before him. Douglas pulled the shower curtain, opened the door, and he stated F you. He had closed it again, and Ontario was, he's no better than anyone else. Douglas was very hostile toward the offender, Ontario, and Warden Trevor opened the cell block and asked the offender Douglas what the problem was. I guess he had an altercation with another offender at this time, and then that was on June the 23rd. On June the 25th, he had a visitor, and let's see, Douglas had many Susan Douglas had many bags with her. I asked her if she had the bags. Susan Douglas told me nothing but food and snacks. I then walked her into the office and myself searched her bags, and located in the bottom of the bag was a cell phone, and told her to leave visitation. And offender Douglas also became very arguing with me, and then told offender Douglas to go back into the cell block. Susan Douglas was then arrested on a warrant of introduction of contraband. That was, those two incidents stemmed from that last write-up.
Was there any action taken on the arrest for the write-up or the contraband?
I'm not sure about that, sir.
Mr. Douglas, what happened on the contraband arrest?
My wife came to see me while I was having a picnic visit. She had been coming to the jail for about 4 months to see me. And every Saturday and Sunday, we have picnic visits for 6 hours. Her cell phone was in her bag, but she had been bringing it in for about 3 weeks. And she said that the car was getting too hot. And so when she go back to the car, her phone wasn't coming on. So she started to bring it in. And it was no problem. She had been doing it for 3 weeks.
Well, you got arrested for contraband. What happened on that charge?
No, he didn't get arrested. The visitor.
She got arrested for the
Yes,
contraband.
sir. Yes, sir.
Do you know what happened with her?
She's still going to court on it.
Oh, she.
All right.
Martin, can I ask you another question? I'm sorry.
Yes,
Go ahead.
What was his previous write-ups before the 22 write-ups?
I think it
The
was
date.
16. May of 16, May the 18th of 16. He had a.
Okay, so he went 6 years before he got those two right. Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, it was very confusing. And I
Yes.
was trying to figure out how it is. So let's talk a little bit about when you were 17 years old, Mr. Douglas.
Yes, sir.
When you got your other charges, the burglary, you were arrested for burglary, unauthorized use of the motor vehicle, and the stolen vehicle. How far had you gone in school at that time? Did you finish high school?
No, sir.
At 17, you were 17, right? If my math is correct. You were 17 when you got arrested?
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about you at 17 years old. Were you still in school?
Yes, sir.
And what grade were you in?
I was in alternative school going to get my GED.
All right. Why were you in an alternative school?
Because I dropped out of 8th grade.
Okay, so you quit in the 8th grade.
Yes, sir.
Who were you living with?
My mother.
So tell me what you were doing at 17 years old. Why the burglaries? Why the stolen vehicles? Why were you doing what you were doing?
Really and truly, I just being out all night, doing everything that I shouldn't have been doing.
Were you doing drugs?
Yes, I smoke marijuana. Yes, sir.
When did you start smoking marijuana?
Not about 2 years prior, when I was about 15.
How often were you smoking marijuana?
If I remember when I first started, it was just every so often, maybe every time I get $3 or $4 to buy me a joint.
And did that progress to more often?
Yes, sir.
How often?
Probably every day.
When you were 17 years old, when you're getting all this trouble, were you smoking marijuana every day?
Yes, sir.
Any other drugs? You ever use cocaine?
No, sir. Only marijuana.
Only marijuana? What about alcohol?
Now, never could keep anything down. So every time I drunk, I always vomited. So I never drunk alcohol like that.
Now, in the 78, I believe, let me see, I wrote it down. I can't remember where to put it. In the 78 write-ups that you've had since you've been in the last 23 years, have any of those been alcohol or drugs?
No, sir.
When was the last time you smoked marijuana?
When I was on the street in 2000.
So when did you get out? You went to prison for 3+ years, you told me. When you got out, what, in 2000?
Yes, sir. January the 17th, 2000.
Okay, and then you went right back to crime. Why?
No, I didn't. Actually, I stayed out for a while, for a couple of months anyway, and I did my best to try to find me a job. I was willing to work anywhere. I put in applications everywhere I could think to put in applications, and of course, I never got.
Who were you? By my calculation, what are you, 20? You were 20, 21 maybe?
I was 20 when I came home.
Okay, so when you came out, where were you living?
If the first week I lived with my mom, and after that I moved in with some guys that I grew up with.
Okay, same guys you were doing all the other stuff with?
No, sir, I had never, they were younger than me, so we never was hanging
How
around.
about marijuana smoking? Go back to smoking marijuana?
Yes, sir, I did. I started smoking again.
You smoking every day like you were before?
Yes, sir, I sure did.
So tell me how you got involved with the Jiffy Mart, Chevron, and the car that you stole.
I want to say I was with the wrong people, but at the same time, nobody made me do what I did. I did that. That was, I did that on my own. Nobody held a gun to my head.
Now that you look back, why were you doing those things?
I ask myself that a lot, because the man that I am now, I can't even believe that I actually did that. Like, I can't see myself actually doing that, not the guy that I am now. But
Now,
I
do
mean,
you believe, let me ask you this, do you believe that drugs may have had something to do with that?
it's easy. It would be easy for me to say yes, but I would be lying to you if I told you that when I did that I was on the influence of drugs. I wasn't.
Were you smoking every day?
Yes, I still was smoking, but I know that, like, when I did the actual crimes, I was not on anything.
I'm not suggesting, Mr. Douglas, that you were insane or legally exonerated from your crimes because you were not in your right mind. My question to you is, do you believe that smoking marijuana every day contributed to the crime that you committed?
I can go with that. Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, sir.
Now, do you consider yourself, as you sit here today, back then and today, do you consider yourself to be an addict, a drug addict, a substance abuse addict?
Yes, sir. I will always be a recovering addict. Always be.
Now, let's talk about what you've done since you've been in prison. Let's talk about you after 23 years in prison. Tell me a little bit about your education. Did you finish school? Did you get your GED?
Yes, sir. I got my GED right here, David Wade.
Okay. What other educational things have you done?
Educational wise, the only other thing that I did was, the one thing that I felt like I was passionate about was cooking. I always wanted to be a cook. So I got into the kitchen, you know, numerous times in numerous different facilities as a cook. And finally, when I was at Allen Correctional Center a few years ago, I enrolled in culinary. And I stayed in culinary for about almost 3 months. But at the time they came in and they had a new superintendent that came in and took over the program, and everybody who had a certain amount of time, they dismissed us from the class to put people in who were about to go home. So that's how I lost out of culinary right there. And I think that maybe they gave me some partial credit, but I never got a chance to finish because, excuse me, a couple of months after that, they shut the program down completely.
What kind of programs did you take that you think were very helpful to you?
Substance abuse. I took substance abuse a couple of times in the past. Anger management, I took that because I felt like I needed that. I took a couple of other things like smoking cessation. I took that here at David Wade also. I don't think that's anything that showed up in my record though, but I took it here.
I see that you enrolled in victim accountability training.
Yes, sir.
Tell me what that was about, and tell me what your thoughts are to the people that you victimize. I mean, what do you think a person thinks when someone pulls a gun on them?
Wow,
Do
that's
you
big.
think that affects them for the rest of their lives sometimes?
It does. It does. I mean, because I can see what it has done. I can see what it did to me, and I'm the person who did it. You know, because I also have to live with that too. So I know that it affected them even more so than it did myself. I mean, I like I can go back and say I still can't believe that the man that I am now. I just can't believe that I did that back then. I can't. I mean, I know I did.
You've taken Malachi Dad's Partners in Parenting. You're married. Your wife is here today to speak on your behalf. You have children?
Yes, I found out in 2015 that I had a daughter, and she's 22 now.
Do you have a relationship with that daughter?
Yes, I have a great relationship with my daughter.
She come to visit you?
She was for a chance, but she isn't right now. But we still speak weekly.
You have a lot of letters of support. Your disciplinary record is pretty bad. You've done, you know, you did okay for 5 years, and then all of a sudden, 2022, what happened? Tell me why the disciplinary issues, because that's something that we significantly look at.
Okay, so like the word I'm saying on the write-up, for the Rule 3, we went to work. We was all working on the street, Class A trustees. We're out cutting grass in the city of DeQuincy. And there's 2 showers. There's 12 guys. And so when we get in, it's always a race to the shower. But we respect each other enough to say that whoever calls the shower first, that's who gets in. And so there's only 2 showers. So that particular day I got in, and I was one of the first ones who got searched. And so I said, I want the first shower. And so everybody heard me. We was all in the room together. And so when I came down the hall, the thing that I did was I opened the shower curtain, turned the water on. I took my shirt off and I hung it on the shower nozzle. That lets people know that I'm next in the shower. And so my cell was all the way at the end of the hall. So the guy Artigo on the right up, his cell was 1. He came down the hall directly after me. But you keep in mind that there's 2 showers. He went into his cell because he came right behind me, and I had to go all the way down to cell 5. He went into his cell, I got undressed real quick and ran into the shower. So when I came back up the hall, somebody was in the shower. I had no idea who it was. And so I asked him, I said, who's in the shower? He said, I'm in the shower, this ought to go. And I said, man, I had shower first. I called the shower first. And so he and I started talking back and forth through the curtain. And I told him, because he's been there longer than me. As a matter of fact, he had been there longer than everybody. And, you know, sometimes, you know, I felt like he was more privileged than us because he had been there longer. And I only been there for about 4 months myself. And I just let him know that he wasn't better than everybody else, that he should have to wait in line like everybody else. And so we did get loud with each other. But the defiance part, I don't curse at all to nobody. I mean, I'm not blaming, but I didn't curse nobody. It was an argument, it was loud, but I never cursed him out. And as far as the write-up about the contraband, or the Rule 30, my wife did bring her phone. She brought her own registered cell phone in to herself. She brought it in. And she told me why she brought it in. She told me when she started bringing it in, why she was bringing it. Because, you know, she said she's leaving it in her car, and her car was getting so hot because this was the summer, and her car was getting so hot. So then when she leave, because visitation is 6 hours, and she's in there for the whole 6 hours. And when she go back to get in her car, you know, it would take an hour or so for her phone to come on from being so hot. So she started bringing it in. So that particular day, when she brought her phone in, they found the phone in her bag. I mean, that's registered her. You know, it wasn't, he just made it seem.
All right, we've explained that. We've got that. So
Right.
tell me about all the other write-ups before that. I mean, you've had a ton of write-ups. You've lost 598 days of good time. That's you know, that's a lot of good, you know, you'd have a good time date of a year sooner if you wouldn't have done all of that. So tell me what all that was about.
No, just being recalcitrant, just being hard-headed, you know, just being hard-headed, you know, just not doing what authority told me to do, you know, trying to.
That changed now.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
How has it changed?
Because I know that I know what I need to do in order to make it, you know. Every day that I go to my dorm, you know, at night, you know, the main thing that I do is I pray that I'm a better man today than I was the day before, you know.
When did you get that enlightened? Can you pinpoint approximately when, hey, look, the light came on. This ain't working. I got to do something else. I'm tired of this crap. When did that happen?
Well, actually, when I went to Allen Correctional Center, and a friend of mine, you know, a guy who I used to get in trouble with at Winfield Correctional Center, I seen him in a faith-based program.
And when would that have been?
And that was in 2016, no, 15, 14. I got in faith-based 2015. And
that's about the time all your disciplinary issues, other than what we just talked about, quit.
Yes, sir. And so that's when I changed everything around.
Okay. So tell me how you're going to stay sober if you're released and get out. No, you haven't, you know, don't tell me, well, you know, I haven't smoked anything in 20 years. We both agreed early on that you're a recovering
addict, yes, sir.
addict. So how will you make sure you don't go back to that lifestyle?
I don't know how, I just know that I'll never, I know that I'll never do drugs again. Like,
Well, I believe as you sit there, you believe that.
yes, sir.
My question to you is, you've taken some programs, you said, you've taken Celebrate Recovery, you've taken some substance abuse programs. What have you learned in those programs with regard to what your triggers are? What is it that happens to you that makes you gravitate towards marijuana? And how would you stop that? What is your plan to make sure that you don't go back to doing that? And I believe you when you say, I ain't gonna do it though. But you know, when you get out, life's gonna suck. You might lose a job, you might go for a job interview and you might not get it. Someone in your family might get sick, things happen. How are you gonna be able to resist smoking a little marijuana just to feel better? And then get right back in the same cracks.
During substance abuse, one of the things that I did realize is like some of my triggers. And the main trigger that I had was being around certain people. Because a lot of time I went around those people and I had no intentions of smoking or getting high. But if they smoked, then I would automatically smoke with them.
That's my point. So
Right.
tell me what tools you're going to put in place to make sure if you run across those people, now you may want not to, but there are going to be times you're going to run into your whole crowd. So tell me what you're going to put in place to make sure when those things happen, you're going to be prepared.
I don't know. I pray a lot. You know, I keep my wife in mind. I keep my daughter in mind, my mother who's 69 years old. I just know that nothing out there smoking marijuana or hanging with my old crowd is important anymore. I know that my commitment now is to my family. You know, that is what's going to
Mr.
keep me.
Douglas, let me stop you just for a second. I was a drug court judge for 14 years. And I heard everybody say, I'm done, I'm not going to do it anymore. And I can't tell you how many of those people I buried because they were too confident. They thought they had it licked. They didn't realize that it was a disease that they had and they had to have treatment all the time. Now, you mentioned something about classes. Did you learn anything about the 12 steps, about AA, about getting a sponsor, anything like that?
Yes, I learned about getting a sponsor. I know that in AA, one of the main things, the first step that I learned was, you know, admitting that I was powerless over it. You know, and I know that I needed help, you know, and that was the reason that I took the classes. That's the reason that I'm still, right to this day, I still go up and talk to my counselor, right to this day, you know, because I understand that I need help. I'm not nowhere.
That was my question to you. I'm asking you very simply, if you get out, what are you going to do to maintain you're going to stay sober?
Oh, well, my wife.
You didn't mention the first thing about a counselor. You didn't mention the first thing about a sponsor. You didn't mention the first thing about an AA meeting. You know, so my question is, why not?
That's one of the
first thing you learn when you understand you're a drug addict. You know that you have to go to meetings, otherwise you're going to fall.
That's one of the
You
main.
didn't tell me that, and that concerns me.
Okay, that's one of the things that my wife and I have talked about. You know, because she's so supportive that even though she's never did drugs or alcohol, she's already, you know, told me that those things like that, she's going to do them with me. You know, like AA or NA, she's already told me that she's going to be willing to come with me, you know, even though she doesn't have a problem like that, but she's going to support me enough to be right there with me in the meetings.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your transition plan. Where are you and your wife going to live?
By the grace of God, I'm going, if, whenever parole is granted, today or whenever, I'm going to do my best to get a transfer from Louisiana to New Mexico where my wife lives. In
That's
Los
where your wife is in New Mexico?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I want to drive trucks. I want to get into somebody's school to learn how to drive trucks, get my CDL, and drive trucks, and get with my parole officer to see if I'm able to do it across country, across state, or just locally. And even if that falls through, the worst, I'm a hell of a cook. I know that I can go and get a cook job anywhere.
Have you done anything to look into transferring your parole to New Mexico?
I've talked to my classification officer here, and she has already told me that, the process of it, I've talked to her about it. She's already told me the process of it. And it's just I just have to wait on the process.
Okay, now your parole eligibility date is not until April.
Yes,
Are you
sir.
in programs currently? But it looks like you maxed out on your good time. Are you in any programs currently?
Yes, sir.
What are you in right now?
I'm doing Living in Balance right now, and I'm also in victim awareness.
What can you tell us about Mr. Douglas?
Mr. Douglas came to us right after that incident at DeQuincy, and he has not had any more write-ups or disciplinary. He's not a disciplinary problem here at Wade. He, like he said, he's currently enrolled in those 2 programs. He has completed some, got his GED here, and let's see.
What's his trustee status?
He is medium custody right now. The job he has, he was in the North Kitchen, and now he's on a crew 1, just a work crew. He has had some of the forfeiture of good time restored, 270 days of that restored, and like you said, he's earned his max CTRP credit.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Anybody have any questions? Okay, now we'll hear from your wife, Miss Susan Douglas. Miss Douglas.
Yes, I'm sorry. I had to unmute my mic.
That's okay. Can you hear us?
What was that?
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you'll introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know.
Yes, I'm Zmorrio's wife. We've been together almost 4 years this coming November. I know that he's a changed man. I know that he made mistakes in the past, but I can see a great future for him to get rehabilitated out here and, in our society. And he's got a great support with family and lots of friends out here waiting to help him and support him in every way that he can.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We'll now hear from Tori Mathern.
Yes, hello. I would like to start off by thanking the parole board for allowing me to come and speak today. When I received the letter about this incident, seeing the word victim written in print had a pretty big impact on me. I never did get to initially participate in the justice process when this all first happened. It was many years ago. I'm one of Mr. Douglas's early victims, and I lived in a dorm full of girls, and I never did find out how he got a hold of the keys in my car. I can only tell y'all that I know that I went out one night. I woke up the next morning and my keys were gone, and I went out to the parking lot and my car was gone. So, I was victimized on a couple of different levels. It wasn't just that my car was stolen, but somebody had to find a way to get their hand, to come into a dorm full of girls and put their hands on my keys. Other than telling the police that at the time, I never did get to participate, like I say, in the court system and say that out loud. And when I got this letter in the mail, it just felt important to me that I get my voice out there, because all these years later, I'm still considered a victim. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and we appreciate your being here, and we hope this has been helpful for you. Mr. Douglas, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
I just want the board to know that I'm sorry for what I did. I had no business doing it. I mean, I was wrong in every way. I was wrong. I did some stupid stuff. I did some horrible stuff. That is not who I am, though. That's the man I am. That's not me today. You know, that's not me today. I told my wife this, and she doesn't believe me, because she met me like this. I'm the guy that she met. She didn't know me 20 years ago. And I tell her often that had we met 20 years ago, she wouldn't have fell in love with me. And she wouldn't have wanted anything to do with me. And so I thank God that she got to meet this man. And so I'm glad that y'all got to meet this man too.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. I appreciate your comments. Pam, ready to vote? Mr. Douglas, let me say that I have enjoyed our interview. I think you've been very honest with me. I think that you're well-spoken. I think that maybe having been a prosecutor, a defense lawyer, used to cross-examining people over the years, maybe my questions weren't perhaps appropriate enough for you to be able to explain to me what your sobriety plan is. I believe you do have a sobriety plan. I think you have a knowledge of what you can do to make sure you don't go back to doing drugs. You were 17 years old when you began your crime, and you've paid a long price. After you got out, you went back in. You've been in for 23 years. The good news is that no one was physically injured in your incidences. Obviously, people have emotional scars, but you've served your time well. You've had a lot of disciplinary issues. You've had a lot of problems in prison, apparently. But I do believe you when you say that sometimes around 2015, 2016, light came. And, you know, I'm not sure what I would have done with Zmorrio Douglas at 20 years old, but I got a good feeling what I would do to Zmorrio Douglas today at 42. So having seen all of that, having heard all of that, my vote would be to grant your parole. I would like to see you go to New Mexico. You've got a little bit of time before you'll be able to get out on parole. So I hope that you go through ICOTS and get transferred to New Mexico. And when you get there, I'm gonna, once you get out, my conditions would be that you go to at least 3 AA meetings per week. And for at least the first 6 months, and then your parole supervisor can make a decision as to how often you should go after that. I'd also like to see you do about 5 hours of community service work, perhaps maybe 3 months after you're out, especially talking to young people to tell them your story. I think you've got a lot of things to say about what you've been through. I think you might be able to help people in the future. So that's my vote, and good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. West?
Douglas, you presented yourself well today. When I was reading your case last night, I had some concerns. You came across sincere to me. I do want you to know that in reading some of the victim statements, some of them said that the crime impacted them in ways that changed their life forever. It changed how they trust people. So I want you to realize the far-reaching impacts of your acts on those individuals to this day. I'm inclined to take a chance on you. I concur with Mr. Marabello. My vote is the same for the same reasons. I would like to see random drug screens over your period of supervision. Best wishes to you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Douglas, I also go along with my colleagues and I'm gonna vote to grant. I just want to tell you, it looks like you could earn about another 90 days of good time, which you probably will with these two classes. So I would suggest come around December or January, y'all put in for that interstate compact where you won't be sitting around here waiting to go. Okay?
Yes, sir.
You have 3 votes to grant your parole. Good luck to you, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.